minutes carry. It looks like we just have the one item here.
Because I said, we're all going to be on council. Why was there going to be going? Let's get this thing fixed.
All in favor?
Ask my opinion on the letter that you and Dave submitted to University Hospitals about the emergency room. I said, well, I think it would be nice to have the firemen down there.
You're moving pretty good.
Depending on what that is, but every day we'll look at what the cost. We'll have an idea. Yeah, I didn't think we'd get them. And then he had to leave right away when
I don't know.
But we have some say
But I was at the, I went to urgent care because I cut my finger really badly, and they said it's not going to ever be an emergency room again.
Funny, I don't see any African Americans.
On the weekends, maybe.
On the weekends.
Urgent care is good. I mean, that's why I went and I broke my arm.
Yeah, no, they're very good.
There would be architects chair and do all these.
Oh, well, it has to be yours, because where's yours? I know, what is it?
I don't have any money to buy a new one.
You're working normal.
Get you a new one.
See, he was getting himself so worked up that. I left it without a towel.
29. We got to fix that clock
Eddie
up
has
there.
to see me 2 days later at Dick King's thing, and I laughed. I saw John.
This guy has a new.
You guys want to take your seat at 7:30? Don't rush to it. Order in the court. My phone says it's 7:30. That clock up there is wrong. So welcome to the regular council meeting of Wednesday, July 21st, 2021. Would the clerk please read the roll?
Mr. Amrine?
Here.
Mr. De Leon?
Here.
Mr. Ferrara?
Here.
Mr. Kuhar? Here. Ms. Schaefer-Bish? Here. Mr. Sidoti?
Here. Tracy Wallach, Robin Turner, and Glenn Rosenberg asked to be excused. I need a motion.
Move to excuse.
Second. Second, is there any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Opening remarks and pledge by Mr. Kuhar.
The only remarks I have is I'm glad to see that we're all here and healthy. You all please stand for Pledge Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Need a motion, John, for the approval of those minutes?
Which minute?
Number 3.
3.1, 2, 3, and 4.
Move to approve the approval of the minutes 3.1 through 3.4.
Second.
Second, is there any discussion? Seeing no discussion, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you. Public communications? Did somebody sign in, Amy?
We have 2 visitors tonight. The first person is Christopher Myers.
Okay, just a minute. I've got to read my statement here. While the law does not require council to provide time for the public comment, we have historically invited the public to come and make comment, and we appreciate their input. This is the time when residents and others can comment on matters that concern them. However, we are not engaging in any debate, and as the President Council, I reserve the right to end any public comments that is disruptive, embarrassing, harassing, or otherwise objectionable. We ask that you come to the podium, you speak into the mic, that you clearly state your name and address for the and we'll give you a limit of 3 minutes. Mr. Myers?
Hello. My name is Christopher Myers. I live at 220 East Elm Street, best street in town. I would like to make a comment about fireworks. I vehemently suggest that if it's made a law that you not do it. The people up the street blow this stuff off and it rains down on houses. About 4 years ago, they did it out in the street and it was raining down on the houses. And I called, I says, hey, that stuff is hitting my house. And what I get? I got a drunken, we don't give an F about your house. So it's bad news, and all year that would be terrible. Okay, I'd like to thank the police department for working with me and getting one of the loud music cars with the subwoofer found guilty in municipal court. And I really appreciate everybody from the dispatchers up and down. And let's see what else I got here. Oh, I would like to talk about racism in Kent. And you know, people can call me racist if they want, but I find this very concerning. Something that's a crisis is bad news on steroids. And I would like to know, since the Board of Health called it racism as a public health crisis, I would really like to know, and a lot of other people would like to know, that in real time and now, not back, who is doing something detrimental to somebody because of color. Is there redlining? Is Claiborne Ford not selling a car to somebody because of the color of their skin? You know, is the Rotary Club not taking somebody because of the color of their skin? How many people have complained about this? How many court cases have there been in Kent for racism? I really think that we should know if it is a crisis. I would like to know just how, if it's racist. I've lived here all my life, and I haven't seen it, and I haven't seen it since the 60s. You know, it's been a long time. And I know there's been racism, but, you know, I would just like to know. And I think everybody should know. Is, in fact, racism a public health crisis? Who is getting hurt? What are the court cases? Who are they reporting to? And let's see what else I got here. Nothing. Thank you.
Thank you. Amy, further?
The second person we have is Alan Orishan. Sorry. Did I botch that?
Please come to the podium,
Orshit.
state your name and address for the record, and we'll give you 3 minutes.
Okay, my name is Alan Orishan. I live at 531 South DePeyster Street in Kent. I'm also on the board of the Kent Wells Sherman House. You have one issue coming up tonight concerning that. Really, the primary reason for being here is to sincerely thank City Council for their participation in the moving and restoring and saving the Wells Sherman House. That with a loan of $10,000 that we have asked to be assumed by purchasers of the house. There's a pending sale on the property, as you all know. Came about because of the COVID crisis, primarily. There are a couple misconceptions out there I'd really like to clear up. The project with the Wells Sherman House, it's been said was all done with public money. That's not true. Kent State University contributed $40,000 to move the house instead of paying $40,000 to tear the house down and dispose of it. Also, the other public money involved is that $10,000 City Council loaned us to as part of the project. Also, there has been mentioned that we're making a profit on this property. That we are not. We're selling this for far less than what's invested in the property. We're selling the property and taking advantage of an offer that was made during the COVID crisis to buy it by the people next door. The project is, it's 257 North Water Street LLC are the buyers. In any case, we're selling it to pay off obligations. There have been thousands of hours and thousands of dollars contributed by private contributors, including people in this room besides me. There have been thousands of volunteer hours put into it, and we do have some obligations to pay off, including a mortgage at Hometown Bank, and some of the people of our on our board have lent us money that need to be repaid, including Roger Thurman mortgaged one of his properties to help pay for this house, or for the work on this house. In any case, once again, I'm very grateful, and I speak for the board of the Kent Wells Sherman House. We're very grateful to City Council for their part in this project. Thank you again.
Thank you. Further?
That's all.
Written communications?
Civil Service Commission's regular meeting agenda for June 21st was received on June 18th. The May statistical report for the Kent Police Department from Chief Shear was received June 24th, 2021. Standing Rock Cemetery Board agenda for July 8th and meeting minutes from June 10th was received June 24th, 2021. Copy of a letter from Mr. Dave Ruller and Fire Chief John Tosco to Dr. Majarian, CEO of University Hospitals, regarding the possible closure of the freestanding UH emergency room in Kent was received and forwarded to Council on June 25th, 2021. The Planning Commission and staff report for July 6th was received on June 29th. 22 letters from local residents encouraging Kent to make a minimum goal of reducing carbon emissions at least 30% by 2030 in support of Power a Clean Future Ohio were sent to Mayor Fiala. These were received on July 2nd, 2021 and are on file in the Clerk of Council's office. The Board of Health agenda and statistical reports for July 13th and the May meeting minutes were received on July 9th. Parks and Recreation Board packet for July 15th was received on July 8th. The July meeting cancellation notice from the Civil Service Commission was received July 16th, 2021. And the Planning Commission agenda and staff report for July 20th was received July 16th, 2021.
Okay, thank you. City Manager report, Mr. Amron.
I'd like to move items 1 through 12 on the city manager's report.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Ferrer. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Is there further, Mr. Roller?
No, thank you, Mayor.
All right, thank you. Standing Committees report. Committee of the Whole, there is no business to be addressed tonight. Community Development, Mr. Kuhar.
Yes, the minutes for our meeting are in progress, so therefore no approval will be made this evening. But I would like a motion to accept the 2 actions.
Second.
Second by Mr. Ferrer. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by... Yeah, Ms. Schaefer-Bitch?
2 actions?
This is one action and a draft.
One action, I'm sorry.
Are you all right?
Yep, 1 action.
All right. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Before we get into the draft, Amy has a statement to read because of tonight's circumstances.
Well, it's due to having 6 of the 7 members present that are needed to vote to suspend the 3 meetings, or I'm sorry, the 3 readings, that we'll be reading all of the legislation tonight, but it'll be considered a first reading, and council will be voting on approval of the first reading. And then the legislation that is being brought forth tonight will be carried forward to the next council meeting.
Next committee meeting, we're going to meet.
We're going to have a special council meeting.
Special council meeting. All right, with that said, would the clerk read draft number 2021-65 in title only?
Draft number 2021-065, an ordinance amending section 769.03 of the codified ordinances of the City of Kent, titled Penalty, to change its current minor misdemeanor status to a civil offense and declaring an emergency.
Move first reading.
Second.
Second by Mr. DeLeon. Is there any discussion on the ordinance, accepting it? Seeing none, would the clerk please read the roll for that ordinance?
Mr. Amrine?
Yes.
Mr. De Leon?
Yes.
Mr. Ferrara?
Yes.
Mr. Kuhar?
Yes.
Ms. Schaefer-Bish? Yes. And Mr. Sidoti?
Yes.
Okay, the first reading of ordinance 2021-065 passes.
That concludes community development.
Okay, Health and Public Safety, Mr. Amrine.
Yes, I'd like to move the 1 action recommended.
Second.
Second by Mr. Ferrara. Is there any discussion on the action? All in favor of the action signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, that passes. Would the clerk read draft number 2021-66 in title only?
Draft number 2021-66, a resolution of the City of Kent, Ohio, authorizing the adoption of the Portage County Multi-Jurisdictional Hazard Mitigation Plan and declaring an emergency.
Move first reading.
Second.
Second by Mr. Kuhar. Any discussion on the draft? Seeing none, please call the roll for...
Mr. De Leon?
Yes.
Mr. Ferrara?
Yes.
Mr. Kuhar?
Yes.
Ms. Schaefer-Bish?
Yes.
Mr. Sidoti?
Yes.
Mr. Amrine?
Yes.
First reading of ordinance 2021-66 passes.
Okay, thank you. That's it for health and public safety, land use, Mr. Ferrera.
Yes, I would move the action recommended, and there's one draft.
Second.
Second by Mr. DeLeon. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you. Would the clerk read draft number 2021-67 in title only?
Draft number 2021-67, an ordinance amending the city's zoning districts map for parcel number 45-004-00-00-053-000, the corner of State Route 43 and State Route 261, to be rezoned from its current C Commercial Zoning District CH 1141 to CR Commercial High Density Multifamily Residential Zoning District CH 1145, and declaring an emergency.
Move first reading.
Second.
Second by Heidi. Is there any discussion on adopting this ordinance? Seeing none, please call the roll for adoption.
Mr. Ferrara?
Yes.
Mr. Kuhar?
Yes.
Ms. Schaefer-Bish?
Yes.
Mr. Sidoti?
Yes.
Mr. Amrine?
Yes.
Mr. De Leon?
Yes.
Okay, the first reading of ordinance 2021-67 passes.
Okay, thank you. That's it for land use, sidewalks, street and sidewalks, and utilities. Mr. Sidoti.
Yes, I'd like to recommend the two actions that came out of committee.
Second.
Second by Mr. DeLeon. Is there any discussion on the actions? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, that passes. Would the clerk read draft number 2021-68 in title only?
Draft number 2021-68, an ordinance authorizing the city manager or his designee to enter into a pedestrian safety improvement agreement between the City of Kent and Kent State University to jointly improve the safety for pedestrians within the city and KSU campus and declaring an emergency.
Move first reading.
Second.
Second by Heidi. Is there any discussion on adopting this ordinance? Seeing none, please call the roll for adoption.
Mr. Kuhar?
Yes.
Ms. Schaefer-Bish?
Yes.
Mr. Sidoti?
Yes.
Mr. Amrine?
Yes.
Mr. De Leon?
Yes.
And Mr. Ferrara?
Yes.
Okay, the first reading of ordinance 2021-68 passes.
Okay, thank you. Would the clerk read draft number 2021-69 in title only?
Draft number 2021-69, an ordinance authorizing the city manager or his designee to approve a new special event application for Kent State University and the City of Kent for an ice rink that will start on November 25th, 2021 and run through February 28th, 2022, and declaring an emergency.
Move first reading.
Second.
Second by Mr. Sidoti. Is there any discussion on adopting this ordinance? Please call the roll for adoption.
Ms. Schaefer-Bish?
Yes.
Mr. Sidoti?
Yes.
Mr. Amrine?
Yes.
Mr. De Leon?
Yes.
Mr. Ferrara?
Yes.
Mr. Kuhar?
Yes.
Okay, first reading of ordinance 2021-69 passes.
Okay, that's all there is for street, sidewalks, and utilities. Finance Committee, Mr. DeLeon.
Yeah, I'd like to move the the three actions recommended.
Second.
Second by Mr. Ferrer. Is there any discussion on the actions? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, thank you. Would the clerk read draft number 2021-70 in title only?
Draft number 2021-70, an ordinance amending ordinance number 2012-57, adopted on June 12th, 2012, as amended by ordinance number 2012-69, adopted on July 18th, 2012, so as to issue a new promissory note to 257 North Water Limited in the amount of $8,463 as the new owner of 247 North Water Street and declaring an emergency.
Move first reading.
Second.
Second by Mike. Is there any discussion on adopting this ordinance? Seeing none, please call the roll for adoption.
Mr. Sidoti?
Yes.
Mr. Amrine?
Yes.
Mr. De Leon?
Yes.
Mr. Ferrara?
Yes.
Mr. Kuhar?
Yes.
And Ms. Schaefer-Bish.
Yes.
Okay, Okay, the first reading of ordinance 2021-70 passes.
Okay, thank you. Would the clerk read draft number 2021-71 in title only?
Draft number 2021-71, an ordinance authorizing the city manager or his designee to accept grant funding in the amount of $17,786.25 for reimbursement for the purchase of ballistic vests and declaring an emergency.
Move first reading.
Second.
Second by Roger. Is there any discussion on adopting this ordinance? Please call the roll for adoption.
Mr. Amrine?
Yes.
Mr. DeLeon?
Yes.
Mr. Ferrara?
Yes.
Mr. Kuhar?
Yes.
Ms. Schaefer-Bish?
Yes.
And Mr. Sidoti.
Yes.
Okay, the first reading of ordinance 2021-71 passes.
Okay, thank you. Would the clerk read draft number 2021-72 in title only?
Draft number 2021-72, an ordinance amending ordinance number 2020-129, the current appropriation ordinance passed December 16th, 2020, so as to adjust appropriations, transfers, and advances from the various funds of the City of Kent to individual accounts for the current expenses of the city for fiscal year ending December 31st, 2021, and declaring an emergency.
Move first reading.
Second.
Second by Mr. DeLeon. Is there any discussion on adopting this ordinance? Please call the roll for adoption.
Mr. DeLeon?
Yes.
Mr. Ferrara?
Yes.
Mr. Kuhar?
Yes.
Ms. Schaefer-Bish?
Yes.
Mr. Sidoti?
Yes.
And Mr. Amrine.
Yes.
Okay, first reading of ordinance 2021-72 passes.
Okay, thank you. Would the clerk read draft number 2021-73 in title only?
Draft number 2021-73, an ordinance authorizing the city manager or his designee to take all actions necessary to accept the Northeast Ohio Public Energy Council NOPEC 2021 Community Event Sponsorship Program Award in the amount of $2,000 and declaring an emergency.
Move first reading.
Second.
Second by Mike. Any discussion on adopting this ordinance? No discussion. Please call the roll.
Mr. Ferrara?
Yes.
Mr. Kuhar?
Yes.
Ms. Schaefer-Bish?
Yes.
Mr. Sidoti?
Yes.
Mr. Amrine?
Yes.
And Mr. DeLeon.
Yes.
Okay, first reading of ordinance 2021-73 passes.
Okay, thank you. Would the clerk read draft number 2021-74 in title only?
Draft number 2021-74, an ordinance accepting 3 donations to the City of Kent Parks and Recreation Department for the Youth Tackle Football Player Sponsor Fund and declaring an emergency.
Move first reading.
Second.
Second by Roger. Is there any discussion on adopting this ordinance? Seeing none, please call the roll for adoption.
Mr. Kuhar?
Yes.
Ms. Schaefer-Bish?
Yes.
Mr. Sidoti?
Yes.
Mr. Amrine?
Yes.
Mr. DeLeon?
Yes.
And Mr. Ferrara?
Yes.
Okay, the first reading of ordinance 2021-74 passes.
Okay, that's it for Finance Committee. Just an announcement, because we didn't have a quorum to suspend any of these. We will meet at 7 o'clock on August 4th, which would be the first committee meeting, but we'll do a special council meeting, then go into the committee meetings. Okay, is there any unfinished business that I need to know? Nothing? New business for me? Heidi?
Yeah, next meeting, which will be a committee meeting, I'll be coming to council to ask my colleagues to sign off on the use of, we all have a little bit of extra funds that we use for events and things like that that come up. We have a block party that has been restarted in our neighborhood, and it's a really, really great block party. I want to find ways to support block parties. For this year, I have found a way that, perhaps I can donate some of my unused funds. That I will need sign off for that, so that will happen next meeting. But the other thing is, we used to have a grant for neighborhoods that we decided not to continue. It was difficult to use it for block parties. And, there were just a lot of stipulations that made it challenging. I'd like us to put our heads together to find a way to promote and encourage these kinds of events, because these are sort of the part and parcel of what it means to be in community, and how we can begin to know one another. Our houses, our neighborhoods turn over, and it's really important to meet on a regular basis. So that these block parties that occur every year or every few years, or new block parties that are yet to happen, I think it's really important to be able to encourage them. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to put into committee a discussion, and I'd like to involve our community development department of what we can do to assist. And it may be, I am talking about some kind of financial assistance because that's kind of more within our power. Of course, we would hope that you would attend your, events that are in your ward to support them in that way. But I'd like to move to put into committee a discussion of this type of support of social events within wards that are, I guess, yet to be defined very well.
I'll second that.
Oh, wait, it's not clear, was that a motion that
Yes.
you're making? Well, you didn't say that. All right, Mr. Farrar
what I'd like to
seconded.
move.
Is there further discussion?
No, I think I made myself pretty clear.
Mr. Farrar, is there further discussion? Does anybody else have discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. I think we got to look at the budget because that money that we had set aside was taken out, I think, 2 years ago, if I'm not mistaken. The money that you're talking about was set aside to go
Us to attend events?
It wasn't exactly events, it was for you to go to seminars and that stuff.
Personal.
And events,
Personal.
we used
So-
it for like awards dinners
Well,
and things
we'd
like
have
that.
to look at that, but I'm just telling you, the money I think you're talking about isn't there anymore.
Well, just like the neighborhood grants,
All right.
I mean, we need to find ways that we can
Well, I just wanted to put
support
that out there.
and not just dip into our pockets all the time, personal
All right.
pockets.
Is there any more new business? Council member comments, anybody? Mr. Kuhar?
Well, we sit on this council and we make laws and we approve things and disapprove things and basically, we form or mold our community. And thinking over some of the things that we do, like we suspend the rules, the Roberts rules, and so we can get the housework done quicker, pass it on, get things done expediently. We take normal misdemeanors that people would get cited for, and we turn them into civic fines so we can act on them immediately. And so we do a lot. And looking over the 10 or 12 years I've been on council, I started to wonder if in all this legislation that we create, are we somehow wiping out or dissolving the fundamentals of democracy that this country and the laws were founded on by, I can understand the necessity of a lot of this, but and we start taking away due process for people and they're automatically guilty and they have no chance to really say they're not guilty. And the 3 readings, yeah, it's a good thing, believe me, it's a good thing. Just like tonight, we're going to have to do this over again and have extra meetings, but I just wonder sometime, are we overstepping ourselves sometimes and taking away the fundamental freedoms that this country was founded on? That's all I have to say.
Okay. Anybody else? Mr.
Yeah.
Wait, Garrett has
Oh,
hand
I'm
up.
sorry.
Didn't
Go
you?
ahead. Go ahead.
I just had 2 quick comments. One, on our desk tonight, we have the historic South End brochures. Well, I got a tour from Doria Daniels last week at the community gardens down there, and it's really impressive. I mean, she's put a ton of work, everyone's put a ton of work in, and she's super proud of that. And
There's one young lady in this audience.
and if I would say that anybody has a chance to go down there and see it, I think you'll see that it's really nice, and hopefully it fulfills its mission to further the community down there by involvement of the residents down there. But it's really impressive. So it's kudos to everybody that was involved in that. My second comment is I just wanted to take a moment to acknowledge our chief, who will soon be our ex-chief, for retiring, and wish him the best in retirement. It's been a pleasure to work with, very professional, integrity. You know, he's made our job easy because of the high standards he set for the fire department, and it's nice to see that, you know, how well the fire department is held in regard in the community and by council and staff. So thank you and congratulations.
In reference to Mr. Myers in terms of racism as a public health crisis, I don't think this is unique to Kent. We're not saying that this is unique to Kent. It's just that there seems to be a social and structural injustices that that create a problem for minorities getting health care and keeping healthy. We do know during COVID that more minorities were affected by COVID in terms of morbidity than any other group, and I think that's what we were referring to. We weren't talking about Kent overt. I think this is more of a covert type of situation. So that's just.
Roger.
Yeah, I just want to kudos to our engineering department and Melanie's department on North Water Street. You know, we started having conversations when John brought it to us about the difficulties of crossing North Water Street, and I sometimes think that we don't appreciate the, it takes a lot of time and a lot of steps, but when you see a project. I was gone for 10 days. I left. It looked like Beirut during the worst war ever. I come back 10 days later. It looks beautiful. I think it was well done, and I think kudos to our administration and their drive to make this happen. And yeah, it was nice coming home today.
Heidi?
Yeah, I'd like to piggyback on that. We went to the Blues Fest last weekend, and I did walk North Water Street and I observed the wide sidewalks and easy crossings, and I also observed a lot of people on those sidewalks, and I just thought, wow, we just really improved the infrastructure in our city, adding that element that seemed to be such a long walk, and it was such an easy and comfortable walk. I'd just like to see some of those businesses that are, like even our city buildings that we own, I'd like to see them come to life, because the more alive that these buildings are, the more people will be attracted to that area. And I do think it was a wonderful project, and it still has yet to be finished mostly by the private sector.
Roger.
And I would be remiss if we didn't mention Harrison and his hard work with that Better Block. When I was wandering around there and I saw all the tape on the ground, I was thinking, what the heck? How is this going to look? And I think kudos to him. All right, Mr. Ruler, you too. But I think we forget sometimes a lot of people have their hands in this thing, and starting from that Better Block to almost a completed project, it's very gratifying.
Anybody else? We're in the mayor's report. Mr. Ferrer and he brought up the community garden. I've been going down there and doing what I can. And Jonas Seidel has been one of the biggest, hardest workers down there I've ever seen in my life. Saturday, everybody it was raining and they're soaking wet, and they're still out there digging holes to put the shrubbery around the new signage down there. But if you haven't seen it, and Garrett said that, you got to go down, and if you got time to commit to it, you got to commit to it too. So my other comment is Blues Fest this weekend. There was a lot of happy people downtown Kent, and I tried to find out from the police department, and there wasn't much unruly people down there. So everybody was having a good time. I can't help but think our businesses weren't laughing all the way to the bank on Monday morning, because if they weren't, they don't know, they shouldn't be in business. So the other thing, I've been working for over 3 years on our city flag. As you know, the flag we had is a little bit deplorable. And I finally got a committee of people to come together, and we found a gold mine up on City Hall. We have a secretary up there that does graphic arts, and she cornered me. She said, "I can do this." So we had a bunch of renderings, and I passed this around to the council members. And the colors are not as true as they should be because of the copier. But as you know, there's a resolution that supports what's on this flag. But this is what we came up with, and the committee wants to go with it. So the next step is, there's two things. I need a motion from council to proceed with the design that's above here, and also a motion to revise the 1975-155 resolution that was passed on October 15th, 1975, to reflect what was up there. So, council, what's your wishes?
So moved.
Second.
Second by Roger. Is there any discussion?
That looks great.
Yeah.
There was a lot of hard work.
I like the bridge,
A lot of young ladies in City Hall, and they kept me in the corner so they could do their work
That's
as
why it
usual.
looks so good.
Yeah. So, no discussion. All in favor to proceed with this and to rework the resolution to support the image up above, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Aye. Thank you. We now have to go into executive session, Mr.
We do. Hang on.
Here, you want one?
Thank you. Yeah. We need an executive session in accordance to Ohio Revised Code, paragraph 121.22, section G, item 1.